Unfortunately, I have to make the announcement that Design Dungeon is going to be on hiatus for a while, mainly due to a vacation and a move back to back, so that's going to be fun. So, to make it up to my viewers, I'm putting out this retrospective on my own series, mainly to see how it changed over the past year, and look at some of the highlights of each video. Thundercats Roar. Well, the show had inadvertently made me a fan of the 85 and 2011 series, mainly because prior to making the Design Dungeon episode, I had done a two-part retrospective on the earlier incarnations of Thundercats, and the 85 version really surprised me with just how good it was, not just in the animation department, but with its deep themes about growing up and whatnot. So, yeah, I came down really hard on Thundercats Roar. It's really telling when the highest score is a B+ on freaking Tigra of all characters. And as for Lionel, well, there is a good reason he is the lowest rated character on the show to date. I mean, I would love to just sit down with the character designer, the art director, and whoever else approved this design and just ask, why'd you do it? What made you think this was a good idea? What made you think that this was perfectly fitting for a hero to look like a sausage goblin? I just don't get it. It's just the most perplexing thing ever, and it's no wonder that a whole bunch of people did not like it one bit. As for the overlay itself, well, it was mostly inspired by the Devil May Cry results screen, which is why I still have this letter system that persists through all of the videos. That said, the order in which it was presented is very much in line with Devil May Cry 3. As for the background, it's by J.P. Target, who's quite talented. He's done some work for the Pathfinder role-playing game, big fan of that, so yeah, it's probably the best part about the video is the background. It's pretty rough. This was back when I had the character integrity and authenticity. I've kind of rolled that into other parts of the grading system, and we'll touch on that a bit later, too. O.K.K.O was something of a palate cleanser for me. I definitely enjoyed watching it, and it's really sad to see that show get notified of cancellation just 3 seasons in. The characters definitely had a lot more thoughts into them than I originally expected, especially Carol and K.O. Both of them really go very well together. Definitely liked TKO. If it wasn't painfully obvious, I have a very soft spot for edgy looking characters. Like, I really like goth stuff, but I'm not dressed in that manner at all. But yeah, that's just kind of a personal bias. But it is actually a good design. It does convey a lot. I really like it. It's not the highest on the list, but it is solid. This is the first time that I changed the overlay. I still have the characters' colors, conveyance, and authenticity because I couldn't do character integrity for an original show, so instead I just changed it to a bonus that was added after the first 3 were averaged, and that's kind of how the show has been graded from there on out, except that the 3rd category was changed to character, but we'll get to that. I'm kind of still fond of this overlay, even though it's not very efficient to use this method anymore, especially when rendering in Premiere. It just slows things down a lot. That's why a lot of render times took like 4 to 5 hours just to get out, because there would be almost like a bar graph of letters overlaying on top of the overlay that was already on top. There were a lot of layers. It made things a bit hard to render. Now it's a lot more simpler because I don't have to have it rendering a whole bunch of layers at one time. It's more like just 3 layers at once. I know it doesn't make much sense to people who aren't familiar with Premiere Pro, but it definitely made the workflow a lot easier to switch over the cards. But again, later down the line, we'll get there. Right now, O.K.K.O was a very fun show to watch. It was nice to grade all of those characters. My goodness, it had a lot of minor characters, but it wasn't like Zoophobia, which was a royal pain because there was no such thing as a minor character for that show. Again, cross that bridge when we get there. The She-Ra review. Technically the one that started it all, because I had one that was more of a hot take about the show designs much earlier. It was before Design Dungeon existed, but it's where a lot of the concepts came from. I was definitely a lot more easy on Adora and She-Ra in the proper Design Dungeon, because I actually had a solid rating system for it, and because, let's be honest, the original ranking was more of a joke than anything else. There's still authenticity and integrity. I think it was more towards the averaging system, but we still kept the overlay from O.K.K.O because it was very fitting for it. In fact, I think when I made this overlay, I made it with this review in mind, but I decided, let's just use it for O.K.K.O. No sense in doing it for every show individually, even though it may seem like I do that. I don't do it for every show. It's more like every 3 episodes I change it. This was the first time I ever did a skit for the review, because I absolutely loved making the little Catra and Entrapta animated thing. That was actually very amusing, believe it or not. It was done in Adobe Animate and Photoshop. What I did was I made sort of like a little South Park style cutout of Catra and just kind of manipulated the limbs and head and whatnot. Good times. Not much else to really say. I mean, it was just kind of a so-so show, but I had a good time reviewing it, at least. The 5th episode, which really isn't that remarkable in terms of content, it's more remarkable in terms of progression. This was the first use of the crystal style overlay, which was when I finally figured out how layer styles work in Photoshop, so that definitely changed how I produce things. It was also the first time we settled on the new ranking system. It's the color, conveyance, character, and bonus. It's definitely a lot more cohesive than just doing the authenticity and integrity that changes all the time. It's a lot more fair to have this consistent ranking system than just changing it for the show's needs, because this is a lot more universal and it can be applied to other shows, which it does. It's a lot more consistent. It's probably the most consistent thing aside from using letter ranks. Again, which wasn't exactly the most exciting show to review. I barely remember too much about it. Like, it was okay, but it's just kind of forgettable to me. I know that there are some fans out there. I know that a fan recommended it to me, but there's not much to say about it. It's okay, but it's not like, oh, that's what I remember. That is something that I will remember forever. It's not like, I even remember Winx Club better than that. I'm sorry, I haven't actually reviewed that either, but I might just do that. I don't think it'll be episode 13, but I definitely want to review that at some point. I don't remember Winx Club that well, but I do, in fact, remember it. I wish I could say the same for Witch. I like the designs, but they're just kind of samey to me. That's why I kind of grouped them together. It's not exactly my style of art direction, but it works, I guess. The OG Teen Titans show. Man, that was a bit of a revisit to the old childhood. Watching the show again was always good. Not much really changed in the formula. I was kind of... This is one of those videos where a lot of things were very stable, not much new happened except for when Starfire came up. And because of how she was ranked and just how high she got, she went straight through the upper limits of the system. So I had to make a new rank for her. That's how we got exceptional. Somebody in the comments mentioned that there is a such thing as a quadruple S for Devil May Cry, but I did not know this at the time. So instead I'm like, what's higher than triple S? Let's just go to X, why not? You know, exceptional and whatnot. So I did that. And no regrets, actually. It's pretty neat that we actually had a character to go that high. Most of the main casts are really freaking good. I don't remember it being that good, and this is probably why Teen Titans Go gets a lot of hate, because there was a lot of depth to the character. Just like O.K.K.O, it had a second part which focused more on the villains. It didn't do as well as the first part, much like how O.K.K.O had two parts, and really most people just focus on the first part of it and don't bother with the villains. I can understand that. A lot of Teen Titans Rogues Gallery are kind of just pushovers. There are only like a couple that are any good. But, you know, it wasn't too bad. It's not like it was the next one, which was Extremely Goofy Skateboarding. Extremely Goofy Skateboarding is a bit of an oddball because I actually branched out into level design. I'm not that much of a level designer. I've made a few like text games, and really most of my level design is like D&D stuff, so again, not exactly a perspective of an expert or somebody who's well trained in it, but nonetheless, a lot of players understand, especially after a while, what game flow is and what separates good levels from bad levels, and I have my own critique style for it. It was more towards just, you know, averaging how well you can navigate, what kind of unique features the level had, and let me take a look at what else I had. Oh yeah, the reward, like why even go through stuff if you're not going to get rewarded for it, and of course the best part, the aesthetic of the stage. As far as the visuals that I used for it, the overlay was pretty much the same crystal overlay that was in the past few videos, except with just some added images on top of it, and of course the text was changed. Aside from that, not much else was very new in it. There really isn't much to say about Extremely Goofy Skateboarding. I just wanted to do it, and I did it. Didn't really get too many views, but it was fun to make. Also, a shout out to Incetic47 for letting me use their footage. They did a really good Let's Play of the game. It's only like a few videos long, not counting like redoing levels for the other game mode. Power Rangers Ninja Storm was also another oddball, because I don't really do live action that much, but costume design has a lot of overlap with character design, and it's just that sort of show that I remember watching it when I was a little kid, but I don't really have the kind of connection to the Power Rangers that really let me watch it consistently. Like, I only remember seeing the first 3 odd episodes, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. So years later, I'm like, oh, what should I review for the next episode? So Stargazer, you know, my proofreader, says, you should do Power Rangers. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing Ninja Storm. It's like, what? Do Mighty Morphin? I'm like, no, Ninja Storm. And that's pretty much what happened. There's not much else that's notable about it. Oh, jeez, Zoophobia. Well, this is going to just bloat the rest of the retrospective. Oh boy. Zoophobia. Oh god, where do I even start? Like, this one was a month or so in production. Like, there was the skit that was made for a preview of it. That took a while just to make. Then we had to just get everybody recording. It was quite the project, and the review itself was stupidly long because there is no such thing as a minor character in Zoophobia. There is too many that interact with each other. Like, there's no distinction between the main character and just somebody you see. Like, everybody has their own backstory. And that's kind of neat, but you don't need to do that. Like, Vivian has this really good talent for making characters, it's just using them well. That was her problem. This was also the review where I did the card version because, again, I wanted it to render well, and it was already going to be a very long review, so I just knew I can't split this into 2 parts because there's just no way to organize it that way. Let's just do it as one whole thing. And it came out. Not too many people sat the whole way through, but at least people saw it. But anyways, that is the first time we use the mirror format, which I'm starting to kind of get tired of because it's really good for reviewing comics, but it's not very good for reviewing shows. So chances are we're going to have another overlay change, but one that's a bit more versatile. That said, the cards are definitely staying. They're just so convenient to use because, again, I don't have to put down a layer for each letter just to review one character. I just put them down on the card and it's done. Also, we added a voiceover for the final result because, again, more Devil May Cry stuff, and they added that in 5. I really wanted to do it, so there you have it. It makes things a bit more exciting, too. Up next is the ill-fated Nico in the Sword of Light. Now, making the review was a blast. I mean, we got the new format, which made things a lot easier to render. We actually managed to get some video clips of it, so I thought everything was going to go very well for this. I was horrifically wrong because, lo and behold, it got copyright claimed, and the video just couldn't get out until about a day later when they realized, oh, this is a review. This is under fair use. Okay, we'll lift it. Unfortunately, nobody gets the notification, so it's just kind of sat there with no views. That said, it's a really good show. Go check it out. I'd still recommend it even after this. And by all means, see the review, because it needs love. The show, Nico and the Sword of Light, needs love. It really does. Last but not least, we have Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a good show. I reviewed it very well. Not much else is very notable about the review itself. It's another one using the mirror overlay. The only other thing that I can think of is that I wound up mispronouncing Draxum a whole lot. I suppose that's what happens when you rush something out for the vacation, and when your proofreader is also out for vacation. What are the odds? So, what's next for Design Dungeon? Well, definitely episode 13. Certainly going to continue the series when I get back. And really, that's thanks to viewers like you guys. I mean, I didn't think it would take off like it did, but here we are, 12 videos in, and I'm really thankful for all the people who actually subscribed. I know I don't usually say, please subscribe on my videos, because I don't really like doing that. It doesn't really fit my style, but, like, it really... I don't even make this for money or anything. I just like doing it as a hobby. So really, if you just want me to keep doing this, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, leave comments. I absolutely love feedback. I tend to try to respond to comments if they engage well with the material, but I mean, like, a good chunk of my reviews come from people who just leave comments and say, hey, you should review this, and then I'll go and see something that I haven't seen before, because there are actually a lot of cartoons, video games, and whatnot out there that I have not seen, and I'd like to familiarize myself with them, and seeing just what ideas are out there. I would never have seen Witch if it wasn't for somebody recommending it in the She-Ra review. I would have never done Nico and the Sword of Light if somebody hadn't mentioned it before. I mean, it's not like I have a whole bunch of subscribers, but the mere fact that my channel has actually come from nothing into something because of you guys, that's amazing. And thank you again for just paying attention to my videos. Anyways, that's enough rambling for now. I've been going on for about 20 minutes. I'll be seeing you guys in the next episode of Design Dungeon. whatever that's going to be.